All right, have you ever tried to build a website and just gotten totally frustrated? Well, today we're going to break down a super simple framework that helps you build better, more profitable websites and do it way faster than you ever thought possible. Let's dive in. You know that feeling, right? We have all been there. You're just staring at a blank screen, whether it's your code editor or a drag and drop builder, and you're just frozen. You have absolutely no idea where to even begin. It's a universal headache. So, why does this keep happening? Seriously. It's not because you're not creative or because you're not skilled enough. The real problem is almost always something else, something kind of hidden in the way we've been taught to do things. I mean, does any of this ring a bell? You pour weeks into building something only to get to the end and just hate it. And you have to start all over. Or maybe your site is so slow that nobody's going to stick around. And if you're a freelancer, oh man, those endless client revisions can be an absolute nightmare. The thing is, these aren't four different problems. They're all symptoms of the exact same root cause. Okay, so here's the big secret. The real problem, it has nothing to do with the tools you're using. It doesn't matter if it's WordPress, Webflow, or if you're coding from scratch. The problem is the process. You know, all those YouTube tutorials are awesome for teaching you what buttons to click, but they almost never teach you how to think about building a great website. And let's be super clear on this. This is not a knock on your skills. You could be the best coder in the world and still make a mess if your process is broken. The secret isn't about learning a fancy new tool, it's just about changing the order you do things in. So, you've basically got two ways you can go here. The traditional way is to just jump right in and start building. It feels productive, right? But it always leads to chaos and rework. The smarter way? You plan everything out first. The audience, the content, the structure. You build a blueprint. The result? No chaos, just clarity, speed, and a website you're actually proud of. And it turns out this is a classic 80-20 situation. That little bit of planning you do at the very beginning, that's the 20% of effort that gets you 80% of the way to an awesome final product. That small, upfront investment in design and thinking saves you from a world of hurt down the line. Okay, so if the whole process is broken, what's the fix? Well, it's a beautifully simple idea called the Design First framework. It's literally just 2 steps, but I promise they will completely change the game for you. Yup, that's it. Just 2. Not 20, not 50, just 2. And these 2 core steps are going to bring some serious order to the chaos and, honestly, make building websites fun again. All right, here they are. Step 1 is design first. This is all the thinking, all the brain power. You figure out who this site is for, what problem it's solving for them, and what the whole thing needs to say and look like. Then, and only then, do you move to step 2, implement. This is where you actually open the builder or the code editor, and because you've done all the hard work already, this part is, well, it's a piece of cake. So let's just nail down what we mean by design first. Think of it like this. You're an architect creating a complete, detailed blueprint for a house before anyone starts pouring concrete or hammering nails. You know exactly what you're building before you ever pick up a tool. All right, enough theory. Let's make this real. Your first and probably most important design task is to absolutely master the hero section. You know, that big, flashy section at the very top of the page. This is your first design mission. You have literally seconds. That's all you get. In that tiny little window, a visitor decides if your site is worth their time or if they're going to hit the back button. The hero section is not just a hello, it's your make or break elevator pitch. And to nail that pitch, your big main heading has to answer one and only one question. What problem are you solving for the user? Because let's be real, visitors don't care about your company's history. They care about themselves. They have a problem and they're hoping you have the solution. So you have to lead with that. And look, here's a super simple checklist to make sure you've got all the pieces. You need that strong problem-solving heading we just talked about, then a short little paragraph, just 2 or 3 sentences to add a bit more clarity. You need some kind of media, an image or a video that helps tell the story. And finally, you absolutely need a clear call to action button. You gotta tell them what to do next. Now, when it comes to laying this all out, you've really got two main paths. The two-column look, text on one side, image on the other, is super popular for a reason. It just works really well on both desktop and mobile. The one-column layout can also be really clean and powerful, but you've got to be a little more careful with it to make sure it doesn't get awkward on smaller screens. Okay, so you've got the bones of your site planned out. Now it's time to make it look good. And guess what? That design first idea, it applies to your colors and your fonts too. A little planning here saves a ton of hassle later. First off, you do not need to go crazy with colors. In fact, simpler is usually way better. Start with a simple 4-color palette. A main black, a main white, and then 2 accent colors. These accents are where you add your brand's personality on things like buttons, links, and little highlights. Okay, this next tip is an absolute game changer. I'm serious. Whether you're writing CSS or using a modern website builder, you have to use variables or global styles. Think of it like having a master remote control for your website's entire look. You set a color one time in one place and it applies everywhere. So for example, let's say you pick blue as your main accent color. You set that up in one place, maybe one line of code or in your builder's style guide. But then the client changes their mind. They want green. Instead of a massive headache hunting down every single blue thing on your site, you just change that one single line. And boom, the entire website is instantly green. That is the power of planning your styling. It's incredible. Okay, so you've got the big picture framework, you've got your styling plan. Let's wrap this up with a few quick pro tips. These are some easy wins that give you a really polished, professional user experience without a ton of extra work. So here are a few little tricks of the trade that make a huge difference. Things like making your headings resize dynamically so your text always looks perfect no matter the screen, or using flexible cards that rearrange themselves beautifully on mobile. Using lightweight SVG icons is a huge one for site speed, and even tiny details like simple hover effects can just make the whole site feel more alive and interactive. So that's the secret, really. The easiest way to build incredible websites isn't some new tool, it's a new process, design first. It saves you time, it kills frustration, and it just leads to a way better final product. So I'll leave you with this question. Thinking about your next project, what's the first problem you're going to solve for your users?